What's going on, everybody? Gerald Moore Jr. here. I'm an author in the upcoming Courage and Cannabis book. This is the volume two. So I wanted to come live just to create this video so I can share who I am, with the public. You can look me up, you can Google me and see what I've done in my life, in my career. And I'm pretty new in terms of the cannabis world and expressing who I am. I'm more of when you talk about I've been a consumer, I've been a patient, I've been in the last few years I've become an advocate and an activist for the cannabis plant and for people that look like me from the communities that we typically come from, and raising a voice and awareness and educating folks around the benefits of cannabis, but also what's been done to us politically and just societal, in America and globally behind the war on drugs. And so just an introduction to who I am. My name is Gerald Moore Jr. I am a husband, I'm a father, I'm an activist advocate. I'm the president of Green Environmental Outreach, a 501c3 nonprofit focused on educating people on food deserts, food apartheid, environmental justices, and social injustices in urban and rural communities. And cannabis has been one of the things that has allowed me to sustain myself. I'm a former Division I All-American athlete out of Ohio University. I also tried out for the NFL with the Oakland Raiders. Obviously, they're in Las Vegas now. Just shows you how old I am. I guess it was about 10 years ago. But I tried out with the Oakland Raiders as an undrafted free agent in 2023 after my career. And then or after my collegiate career, after being cut by the Raiders, I decided to hang up the cleats and decided to, transition into life after football, because everybody has to transition at some point, whether you get cut, whether you get injured, whether you retire, that ending comes at some point. Fortunate enough for me, I did get hurt or injured. I was hurt college, but after being cut, I decided I didn't want to be a part of the system that is the NFL. And I was already having thoughts of what I wanted to do post football. I had been able to do things in my youth that allowed me to see that I was valuable in more ways than just an athlete. And so that really started my self-discovery journey of what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be, what I wanted to use my time towards. Because really, football had been a part of my life since I was about 6, 7 years old. It's crazy now because I have a 6-year-old son, and my dad put me in tackle football when I was 6 years old. They ended up finding out I was too young, took me off the team. But my dad said I always had the heart and the passion for it, and I had to come back out when I was 7 years old for tackle. At this point in time, people ask me all the time, like, should I sign my son up for sports or football? And I'm always shying them away against tackle football at an early age. I would say you can do tackle football, when you're a little bit older, body's a little bit more developed. But either way, you're going to deal with a lot of pain. You're going to deal with a lot of trauma with football, and also depends on the position you play, and the level of competition you play as well. So I wanted to come and do this live because I wanted to talk about courage and cannabis, and why I decided to be a part of this book, why I decided to write a chapter on it. And then I just hope you guys go out, check it out. There's a volume 1 out already. It's an Amazon bestseller. I'm a part of volume 2. We have the CEO of Tyson 2.0, Andrew Wilkes, who and Mike Tyson, heavyweight champion, who Tyson 2.0 is based after, is also writing a chapter in this book. So what is Courage and Cannabis? Courage and Cannabis is an anthology. It's a group of authors, a group of storytellers sharing their different stories from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, ethnicities, race, gender, religion, cultural backgrounds. And so I just happen to be one of those authors. My chapter basically is covering my life, but also what it's like to be an athlete in cannabis, because really a lot of athletes are consuming cannabis, but many of them have to be, they can't be public about it because of the perception of of the character and the shaming that comes with it. So we don't hear from a lot of our current athletes that are playing under contract, whether it's the NBA, NFL, MLS, MLB, women's soccer, tennis. You don't really hear about it. Cannabis is still frowned upon in the Olympics. People are still getting drug tested for it, and people are, that work regular jobs are still being drug tested for marijuana, cannabis, weed. So this is why I really wanted to lend my story, because now that I'm not under contract by a school, not under contract by an employer, not under contract by anybody, I can really, come out and share my story about how cannabis has benefited me, how it's helped me, but how I've also seen it, impact my community, because I was raised under the belief that cannabis was bad, that cannabis was all these different things, until I tried it when I was 16, 17 years old. When I tried cannabis at 16, 17 years old with a group of friends, I realized that it actually made me feel amazing, right? Like, it made me laugh, it made me giggle, made me relax. I was dealing with a lot of stress, anxiety in my high school years, as most high school teenagers are, because there's so much pressure. Where are you going to college, or are you going to college? You're growing, you're developing, your emotions, things are changing. I was a highly recruited football player, so I had a lot of stress and anxiety from just performing, right? Making sure I had to perform every single day. I had to perform in school, make sure my grades were right. I had to perform in the weight room. I had to perform on the field or on the basketball court. And then I had to perform in society because, again, I'm a black kid at a elite private school, and so you have to, perform, because any mistake or you messing up could really be of detriment to your success, or what is deemed as success. And so, I really had to cover, my cannabis consumption, and so early on, I never would buy weed, right? It was one of those things like, I won't buy it, I'll smoke it though. So I would have my friends buy it, my friends would roll it up, and then I would just join the session. I was never the one to roll it up, I was never one to buy it, because I just didn't know about the whole process. But I did trust my group of friends, who were typically well off, and so I never had any like cannabis that was laced with anything. Obviously, we know that, sometimes cannabis can be laced with stuff, and people end up overdosing on certain things. And so, um, I was thankful for, my group of friends, and being able to consume. And so so then going through, college, I realized that a lot of my teammates were consuming cannabis at the Division 1 level. And you come into college at 18, you have guys that are 18 to 23, 24, 25 in college. So I saw the cannabis consumption, but I also began studying healthcare. So I got my degree in healthcare, and so while I'm studying healthcare, playing Division 1 football, seeing the opioids, seeing how easily and readily accessible opioids were and pain pills were, because we have a team doctor. You're dealing with pain all the time, and so it's nothing to get pain and medicine. Seeing guys pop Tylenols and ibuprofen like they're candy before games, before practice, after games, after practice. Guys are always getting injured, whether in practice, whether in the game, rolling an ankle, tearing a shoulder labrum, ACL, MCL, PCL surgeries. You have all types of things. So, call was coming in, but there's never a shortage of drugs, in college sports. And it's something that we don't necessarily talk about. It's one of those, locker room things, right? We don't talk about certain things because, one, we don't want to get anybody in trouble, especially when you're in college. You don't want to stir up anything. You don't want to get kicked off the team. You don't want to get characterized as a bad apple, right? You don't want to bring too much attention to yourself, especially off the field, but you want to perform, so guys are willing to perform through pain, in the hopes of making it to a championship or bowl game, in the hopes of making it to the NFL, in the hopes of making millions of dollars to, set your family up for the rest of their lives, hopefully. And so guys are willing to do pretty much anything and everything to ensure that they're on the playing surface, and the opioid drugs, That's, you got it from a doctor. You don't ask any questions. You don't ask any questions about long term. What is the long term impacts or effects of this drug on me? What is the long term impacts and effects of playing football? Right, like now we're talking about concussions, CTE. You talk about arthritis, all the pain that happens after, football. Like, it's like your body doesn't rejuvenate as fast when you're younger or when you're older, as opposed to when you're younger. So a lot of guys, their bodies are wearing down. You're overtraining, you're overexerting a lot of energy. And so for me, my story really kind of goes into that background. I come from Rochester, New York. Rochester, New York isn't one of the best places in the world for safety and wellness and riches and glamorous life. I come from a working class, poor family. I come from born out of wedlock to teenage parents. I really am the stereotypical African American boy in America. Really, I was very fortunate and blessed that my dad took custody of me, and my grandmother and my grandfather in the village really cared for me and watched over me while my dad and my stepmom went off to college. After my dad and my stepmom graduated from college, we moved to Maryland, Prince George's County, Maryland. Completely different from Rochester, New York. Prince George's County, Maryland's been one of the top 10 private or top 10 African American affluential counties in America for a long time. So I got to grow up around people who are well off, black people who were well off, black people who had opportunities, black people with government contracts. My friends' parents were doctors, lawyers, judges, entrepreneurs, politicians. Friends had trust funds and things of that nature. So, coming from Rochester to DC to Maryland, you see things are different. You see opportunities are different. And it doesn't necessarily mean that these people are better. It just means that there's more protections, there's more opportunities. Um, the environment is a little bit better, the schools are better. So I got to see, what life was like, and I also got to be around other people who, were striving to be successful, which helped me, in turn, strive for success and realize that I could do anything I put my mind to. And so cannabis really has been just a part of my life. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, growing up, the war on drugs is something that, a lot of our community members, especially our elders, are against it because they see that the damage that's being done, but it's not all because of cannabis. We have a myriad of issues in our community, and cannabis sits at the intersection, but not for the reasons that we think. Um, it sits at the intersection because it's been demonized. Yes, Bubby.